This is me. This is how you all know me. A guy with a pretty decent physique with completely average genetics and strength. Now, right now, I'm fairly happy with where I am. I look relatively good when I'm posing under good lighting, and I'm also at the point where I can fill out a t-shirt so I don't have to feel that insecure when I'm walking around in public. And even though it might not seem like much, this is 5 years in the making. Eating, training, consistency, trial and error, testing different ways of working out, all amounted to this. But take me back to before I started this process, and I was the most average looking kid on the planet. Like most kids are before they've even touched a weight. But how exactly did I get from that to this? And how did I go from that short, handsome young lad to this pretty tall, vile specimen that you see before you today?
I'm a pretty tall guy. Stick out like a sore thumb.
I'm sure you're all probably aware, I'm a pretty tall guy.
So let me take you through the whole timeline, start to finish, detailing every little step that I took. So starting at the very beginning, before touching any weights, 17 years old, 5'9" or 10, 65 kilograms. Firstly, I knew nothing. I basically spent my first year trying to get as strong as possible. Reason being, I basically got dragged to the gym by Joe.
I'm a pretty tall guy.
Now, in my baby 17-year-old gym noob eyes, Joe was a god. Benching 60 kilos, squatting 2 plates, it was crazy to me. I saw him as this huge bodybuilder guy that was just my mate. So I did everything to try and get on his level, even though he had 2 or 3 years ahead of me of gym experience. It would literally be impossible for me to get to where he was, even with blasting loads of gear, which obviously I didn't do. But still, I went very consistently, and I was on a 3x5 full body split. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'd go to the gym and I'd train my full body. Every time going in, training every single muscle group, squatting every time, benching every time. It was a perfectly good, very reasonable program for a gym noob such as my young self. And I was bound to make good gains from that, as any new person to the gym would do, which is called newbie gains. And in about 1 year, I went from this to this. And I distinctly remember looking at that when I was younger and being extremely dissatisfied. But I feel like unless you have 1% genetics, any boy nowadays that has just started the gym is going to be unhappy with the progress that they make in their first year.
I have, in fact.
But coming into my second year of training, I was housebound to my home gym. This was because of some weird worldwide pandemic, I don't know what it was. But it just meant that no one could go outside, so I was restricted to my home gym, which I spent basically all the money I had at the time on. And I basically trained as best as I could based off of the equipment that was available to me. And in this gym, I made some pretty dumb mistakes, due to the fact that I still didn't know anything about correct form, good technique, and that there's actually something called, if you are always training really heavy, you're gonna get fucking injured. And not surprisingly, I got injuries because I did that. My injuries included both knees basically being unusable, my lower back being incapacitated to the point where I felt like a 90-year-old on crutches, and the classic shoulder pain, which I was always going to get because I benched way too frequently, and I'd go in like every day and just do 1 rep on a really heavy weight. It was so stupid. And this is the exact rep where I basically blew my left shoulder out. And I'm genuinely not surprised that that happened. Look at the rep. So my progress was very limited during this time due to the fact that there wasn't a lot of equipment around and that I was always injured. My diet as well was shite. Donuts, takeaways, pizzas. I was going full dirty bulk, which sooner or later was gonna start showing. And then this happened. I moved in with Joe.
How tall are you? How tall are you? I'm a pretty tall guy.
And at that house, we had a sick home gym. We had a dip machine. We even had a cable pulley, which just made life so much easier if we couldn't make it to the gym. And the gym in question was the best gym I think I've ever been to in my life. This little warehouse gym in Newark, owned by a Russian bodybuilder. It had everything, equipment, vibes, the music, the people, just such an old school bodybuilding gym. It was so sick. Session after session, me and Joe would just fucking kill it. After every session, we'd go to McDonald's or KFC and get chicken wraps. And in fact, it was probably the time in my journey where I made the most gains and progress out of the whole time I've been working out. Because as well as training, my diet was on point. Breakfast, I'd have something like chicken bagels. Lunch, I'd have minced pasta and broccoli. For a pre-workout meal, I'd have chicken fajitas. And like I said, a post-workout meal would be chicken wraps from either KFC or McDonald's. Fuck man, they were the good old days. Moving on to the next chapter, university. When I first joined university, I was fresh off a cut. I'd just been on a holiday to Greece and I was feeling good. But university does what university does. Drinking, lack of sleep, fucking lectures, like the 3 most draining things on the planet. Like, of course I was going to lose gains. So yeah, I was guaranteed to slow down my progress. And this little video shows it. Naturally, I thought it looked pretty good here, but looking back at it now, knowing what I look like now, it's crazy. It's actually mental. What a disgrace of a human being. I was still pretty strong though. Like, I could bench 100 finally, and I was back to squatting and deadlifting at my full strength. Here's a little clip of me deadlifting. I'm not sure how much that is, maybe 160, 170. But the longer I was at university, the more I was coming to terms with the lifestyle and sort of adapting to it, meaning my progress started to speed up again. Then summer hit, and I was actually looking really good in my opinion. I was the biggest and leanest I'd ever been. When on holiday, I was feeling confident, both dieting and training, going really well. And then finally, we come to 2024. I was bulky. I was really bulky at the start of this year. I was also the strongest I've ever been, apart from right now, as I'm making this video. I had also got a tan from these photos. I don't know if you can tell the difference. It's pretty slight, but I did get a tan. But the weird thing is, I felt great. But looking at the photos now, I look very high body fat, but at the time, I didn't really think about it or notice it, and I felt great at the time. But then I decided to go on another cut, and that changed everything. So like I say, for the next few months, I dieted down and tried to get leaner. And I ate purely for the macros. I mean, some of the foods that I was eating was disgusting. I didn't care about taste, flavor. I just worked out the protein, worked out the calories, worked out the perfect macros, and I'd eat that meal. Like, looking back at it now, I cannot believe those were the foods that I was eating. But it worked. I had my nutrition nailed. I had my training nailed. Naturally, if you have those 2 things down, you will get shredded. And that's what happened to me. The best shape of my life, super confident, happy, and still strong. The 4 years of gym where I hadn't necessarily nailed all of the information just made me aware of all the mistakes I've made, which allowed me to perfect everything for this cut. At my peak, or should I say at my lowest, I weighed 85.6 kilograms, and that was in preparation for a little lad's holiday to Portugal, which, to be fair, was fucking sick from what I remember. But it was also so good for my confidence. Just walking down the Albufeira strip and some random drunk guy looking at me and going, "You're jacked," it just did so much for my confidence. Or even just getting the nod of approval from a drunk guy on a night out, like, it's just so satisfying. But it is actually mad when you think about it. I've trained for 5 years pretty consistently, and after all of that, the things that make me happy is random people looking at me and acknowledging what I've done, even if it is just a nod of approval or some drunk idiot giving me a compliment. It does everything, which is crazy. And then in recent months, I've been back on the bulk, and I've been struggling to put on weight, and in some cases I've actually lost weight.
I have in fact lost weight.
Go down, go down, go down.
But this is what I'm currently looking like. Not super lean, but probably the biggest I've looked, and I'm content. Still always wanting to get bigger, but I am happy. But yeah, that is my current physique. That is my journey. Let me know what you guys think. Of course, like, subscribe, use code HAL of MyProtein and Tenacity. I will link them both in the description because their Black Friday sales will be outrageous. But yeah, thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.